In this video, we'll look at inorganic expansion and types of it. So inorganic means that a business is grown using another business. So for the types then, we have a strategic alliance. This is when two businesses or two or more businesses work together on a project, but they stay separate. Okay, business one, business two, they do not merge together and become a new business. They stay separate. An alliance is usually a project base or time base. Businesses remain separate. Merger is when two businesses here combine into one new business, and the new business then becomes a new legal entity, so it exists as a new business. The old two businesses don't exist anymore. And a takeover then is when one business takes over another one, and that business then owns both, so it owns the new business. So that's an acquisition or takeover. We'll dig into details in the notes now. So let's start with an alliance. So an alliance can always be called a joint venture as well. So a joint venture is when the businesses come together. That you watch out for that in your exam. There's both ways of saying it, okay? So it's a temporary basis. Temporary is the key word there. Make sure you make a note of that. And it's usually on a project, okay, or for a time period. And the other thing to say, you always want to say 2 points of information for each of these when you're explaining them, that both businesses remain separate legal entities. Okay, that's enough to get all your marks for that. Okay, temporary on a project and separate legal entities. Okay, so they would generally share resources, enterprises, skills, and come up with something together. So BBC and RTE had an alliance on projects such as a documentary. Mercedes and Swatch had an alliance on the smart car. Uber and Spotify had an alliance in the States on music streaming in Ubers, that users could use a Spotify app and control the music. So when two businesses remain separate but work together on something. Okay, so for advantages, generally I would go with three advantages, two disadvantages, should cover you in most cases. The advantages then of an alliance is because they remain separate legal entities, it's much simpler for them to end the agreement. They haven't joined together. There's less legalities to it, so it's a simpler arrangement. Okay, so it's simpler. It's a temporary agreement, so it's much easier to unwind from or get out of. And then there's synergistic benefits. So we're saying that they both benefit. They're sharing ideas and resources, expertise and risk. So there's economies of scale. There's lots of benefits from it, from sharing it. And examples here are very good to include to help. So we have our Swatch and Mercedes on the smart car through a collaboration. Okay, and then they can also share each other's customers or open new markets. So it helps both businesses expand because it puts customers in touch with a new brand on both sides. Okay, so they would both experience new users seeing their brand maybe for the first time. So it helps them both increase sales otherwise. Okay, so you can see here that they can open new markets for both businesses. Disadvantages then, you may give away some of your corporate secrets, so you're letting another business in and see how you operate, so that business might learn from it, and some of your secrets or methods might get out to your competitors, so it could result in a loss of an advantage you have. And then a smaller business may feel like their identity is hidden in the agreement, that they're not getting enough out of the agreement, so they might lose out because the alliance is with a much bigger business. So I'd say three, and then either one or two disadvantages would cover you. Okay. Next up, let's look at a merger. So a merger, we were saying, is when two businesses combine and become one new business. So for a merger, another way of saying it is an amalgamation. So just watch out for that as well. The key word here that you want is that it's a voluntary agreement to join together. So both are happy to do it. Sometimes with an acquisition, when one buys another, it's not voluntary. A business just buys enough shares that the other business can't stop them. But for a merger, the two of them have to agree because they're becoming a new entity, okay? So it's a voluntary agreement and it becomes permanent, okay? So they become the same legal entity, or one new legal entity is formed. Those are your two main things for a merger. Okay, so Avonmore and Waterford became Glanbia. The other more recent example there is Kraft and Cadbury's merging together. Okay, so the benefits of a merger are diversification. I'd always go with diversification for benefits generally, because to diversify means that you would spread the risk, and you can spread the risk then into other markets. So you diversify because you'd be less reliant on just one market. Two businesses might merge from different markets, and now they would share those markets. So a car manufacturer and a music manufacturer might join together, and then now they're in two different markets. They're not just selling cars, they're not just selling music, they're selling both. So it removes the risk of a business going downhill. It's a quick form of expansion because it doesn't take as long to build sales as just naturally trying to increase sales, because you join together with another business and now you're bigger automatically, and there would be economies of scale. So anytime that there's going to be more output, there's going to be cost savings with that. Okay, so you buy larger amounts of stock, so you get discounts for bulk buying. Always good to explain how the benefit comes about or the advantage comes about. Okay, and then you also get access to new technology, new staff, new experiences quickly. But the downside then with a merger is that there would be redundancy. So it's generally, mergers can cause trouble and morale issues with staff, because they're fearful that if someone in this business might also do the same job as someone here, if they merge together, they might get rid of one of them. Okay, so there'd be duplication, that is called. Okay, so there'd be redundancies. So there can be industrial relations disputes, okay, because there is duplication. So that may result in strikes. And the other thing then is there could be management issues. So there could be cultural differences with senior management. They might have different styles of leadership, like autocratic or laissez-faire. And this can cause poor cooperation and decision making. So the difference between them that I would point out is this is here with staff, and this here then would be with management. Okay, just to, if you had to give two disadvantages, that would make them distinct. That staff is industrial problems because people may fear redundancies. And at a management level, the culture of how the businesses are led may not blend well. And then there's problems with strategic decisions and cooperation for that. Okay, and then lastly then we will look at takeover. So we were saying a takeover is also called an acquisition. So an acquisition, when one business buys 50% or greater of the amount of shares, so they purchase a controlling stake in another business. Okay, one business buys more than 50% controlling stake in another business. That's a takeover. That would be 2 out of 5 of your marks there. So you need something else. The thing I would always say is that it can be hostile. Okay, so it's hostile if some of the existing owners don't want to sell. So someone might own 45% of a business, but if someone can buy the other 55%, then they have to sell because, they would lose control of their business, because whoever buys 55% now operates the business. They have a controlling stake. So the people would still own their 45%, but it's now run by the majority shareholder, because they can vote for any decision because they have more than 50%. Okay, sometimes a takeover is done to eliminate competition, and our example of a takeover there is Apple buying Beats. Okay, so advantages for that, we can say their sales will increase. Okay, so you're going to acquire new products. So like for example there are Apple's buying Beats, that is going to just increase your sales. Okay, sorry. So Apple's takeover Beats resulted in Apple now having Beats, so they increase sales. You can eliminate a competitor, so you can gain a market share of an industry, or you can knock out someone. So Apple knocked Beats out of the headphones. So if their earphones sales are kind of maintained, or they can they now, if Beats were to be bought instead of AirPods, Apple still make money out of it. Okay. And then they can acquire different expertise or new technology. So they may gain all the staff that are in Beats, they might gain patents and copyrights as well that Beats would have had, and they now own them because they own everything that Beats had. For disadvantages then, it's pretty much the same as our mergers. We have strikes and industrial relations issues. So it can be hostile, and it can lead to conflict, and also have redundancies because there's duplication. So you kind of have those same 2 points there. We have them together there, but you have those 2 points that you can definitely use. And the other one there is it's very costly. In order to buy more than 50%, normally you would have to pay much more than the current stock price, because the existing shareholders know that you're trying to get over 50, so they would look for a higher amount of money from you, because they know it's important that you buy them. So therefore it's usually expensive and often requires a lot of debt for it to happen.